So I guess I just don't understand why it is that that there are so many in America, Americans, people who call themselves Americans, are really excited about a TikTok ban. Like maybe you can make it make sense to me, because I don't understand why you would be excited about banning something. The idea being that, like, well, it's pushed forth this idea, well, it's ruining kids. I would argue that the public school system is ruining kids more. In fact, I would say all of academia is ruining kids' minds far more than TikTok. You know, here on TikTok, for example, I'm going to post this video on TikTok, but I'm also going to put this on X and on YouTube, and I'm going to just point some things out here. You know, on TikTok, I've never had any problems talking about the Constitution. I've never had any problems talking about money. I've never had a problem telling Americans, hey, you know, your dollar is screwed, your inflation is out of control, and you should probably try and find a way around all that. Haven't had any problems with that. In fact, on TikTok, the amount of reach I have on TikTok in 100 days, I think I've been on TikTok like 100 days. Number of followers on TikTok is pushing 16,000. YouTube, I've been on YouTube for over 2 years. I think I have 200 followers, or 260 or something like that, right? After a couple of years. Twitter, same, or X, same thing. You know, very slow. I mean, it's more engagement now. So I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just, you know, I'm certainly not picking on any of my followers. I'm not picking on that at all. But I'm pointing out some reality here. Why is it that here on TikTok, I do a couple of simple videos, and I criticize landlords, you know, for what they've done. You know, I criticize the idea of turning the United States into a nation of renters. I openly talk about how horrible it is to have the border wide goddamn open, and all the illegals flooding the country. You know, I've never been banned from TikTok. I've never had my anything algorithmically distorted because I talk about all the illegals coming across the border and causing havoc. So, you know, and not only that, I mean, I see other people out there, you know, on TikTok, you know, that are doing other content. A lot of it's woodworking, auto repair, all kinds of shit. So I fail to see where this is coming from, other than, I mean, I really don't, I'm really make it make sense to me. Because this sounds to me like nothing more than the old satanic panic shit back in the 80s and 90s. It sounds to me like nothing more than the video game nonsense, you know, of the 90s, where we had a bunch of people saying, oh my God, video games are destroying kids. I mean, for real. Like, and then, of course, nothing ever really comes out of that. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'll just give you my background, just so you know, okay? I grew up in the south side of Seattle, you know, in the poor side of town, okay, and poorer because I grew up in the projects, right, to a single mother, neglected, abused, all that stuff. No fancy education, no money, no food at the end of the month, all that shit, okay? And then to go out and no connections, nothing. I don't have any fancy connections. I don't know any big powerful power players out there in the world. I don't know any of that stuff. And yet for some reason, I've managed to not be illiterate. I've managed to be able to, I can read, you know, the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire just fine. I may have to look up a word here and there, but I mean, for the most part, I understand what it's saying. I also understand some of the subtext. So I don't have any problem with reading. I don't have a problem with holding a job. I've been in business for over 30 years now. So I don't have any problem doing all these things. So how is it exactly? Oh, and I've managed to never be in a fight at Waffle House at 3 in the morning over God knows what. Okay, so explain to me how exactly that, you know, someone who has all of that stuff going against him and who's supposed to statistically just be, you know, be a complete parasite on, you know, isn't. Maybe it has something to do with, I don't know, the way that you guys are responding to all this stuff. You know, I'm talking to you parents on this. Maybe it has something to do with the way that your kids are being managed. Just a suggestion. I mean, I personally grew up with almost no adult supervision at all, which is why I know so much, right? It's part of it's Gen X curse, right? I mean, most Gen Xers grew up with almost no adult supervision, most of us. And so when I see these kinds of comments, especially when I scroll down below, particularly on X, right? Because I'm on X as well, and for those of you who don't know. And I scroll down below these comments of the news. They're like, oh, they're going to ban TikTok. And there's all these people that are throwing this big party, like this is going to be such a great victory. Are you saying that you have such a shitty argument that you can't have any conversation, a dialogue with anybody else? Well, no, it's ruining our kids. Do you really think that any of the 546 ass clowns in DC give a flying fuck about your kids? I'm actually asking, do you seriously think those people give a shit about your kids? Any one of them. Border wide fucking open. Wide fucking open. No one's doing a thing about that. But we've got time and a half for this. We've got all kinds of time in the world to fuck around with TikTok. Are you serious? I'm serious. I'm actually asking you. I've never had a problem talking about the First Amendment. Never had a problem talking about the Second Amendment. I'm the guy to talk with about the Second Amendment. I've got a lot of qualifications. I won't go into it here, but I'm more than qualified to talk about the Second Amendment with people. And so when I see these kinds of comments, like, you know, man, why in the world would you want to ban anything for that matter? The only thing I can think of is it goes against your narrative. It goes against your narrative. Because there's plenty of guys, for example, once again on TikTok, I see plenty of guys out there talking about the real estate problem, saying, hey, just a second here, this is really fucked up. And they have a huge following of people that are starting to figure this shit out. A bunch of young people that are realizing that the US dollar is a garbage fucking worthless currency. They're starting to realize that. More and more people are starting to realize that. And I think that's what they're most afraid of. Because the owners of TikTok, they're not going to ban that. They're not going to massage that speech. They're not going to algorithmically distort that. If I say that the dollar is a worthless currency, they're not going to distort any of that, are they? Of course not. Why would they? So I don't understand where this is coming from. You know, I mean, unless you guys are just functionally retarded. There was a guy I knew years ago. He voted for the smoking ban because they put it as a vote to the people. This is in Washington State when I was living there. They put a vote out there, and this is one of these libertarian kind of guys. One of these guys that was like all about, you know, private property and all that bullshit that you hear all the time. Like, you know, and I'm all for all that stuff too. But then he went and hauled off and voted for that. And I asked him, I said, you know, like, dude, why did you vote for that? Well, because I don't want to deal with smoking. Oh, so it affects you personally. That's all you care about. You don't care about the restaurants or the bars. You don't care about any of that. You don't care about their businesses. You don't care about their property. You just care about you. This is a level of hypocrisy that I don't think that most people are ready to deal with, because left, right, and center, as far as I'm concerned, all of you are equal hypocrites in my eyes. Right? I don't pull any punches on this one. I mean, you know me. If you followed me for any length of time, so I don't have any problem at all. So, I'm not apologizing to anybody for fuck all. Not on this planet. There's no one that I apologize to. So, but he voted for this. And I said, you know, like, dude, you really, you know, and then of course, sure enough, exactly what happened. In Seattle, for example, a whole bunch of bars that did not allow smoking all went out of business. Because why would you go to those bars when you could just go to any of the other ones? And that's exactly what people did. They went to all the other bars and all the places that didn't allow smoking, they went out of business. Part of that unintended consequences thing. Something for maybe you people to think about this shit before you start, you know, jerking yourselves off about how happy you are about how you're going to get rid of something. Like, dude, come on. You're like, well, but it's spying on people. You say that as though your own. Let me just tell you something. A government that is spying on me, that is an ocean away, right, doesn't concern me as much as the people that can do shit right now, can send a bunch of goons right now to deal, you know, to go and Waco everything, right? Those people concern me a hell of a lot more than anybody, you know, across the fucking ocean, the Pacific, nonetheless. So, you know, really, I mean, you know, get your shit together on this. I don't understand how it is that anybody can think that this is a good idea and that they have time for this when you've got so many other problems to do. It just seems like you have more pressing issues you could be dealing with than this shit. And the fact that you believe that this has anything to do with kids tells me that you're either stupid or you're in on it. So which one is it?